Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So, very good defensive line class pledged. Don't seem that anybody is wavering. Got some very good news from what many believe not only is the best player in South Florida, not only the best player in Florida, but the absolute best player in the entire country, and that is Ruben Hurricane Bain, right? What a better way. I mean, again, I like I said, I don't follow recruiting, but just it was so much around Ruben Bain that you would just have to be dumb, deaf, and blind not to just be somewhat curious about, okay, what direction is this young man going, right? And so what a better way. I mean, probably has to be probably the best commitment. Just this just comes to mind because you're accepting an award for being the best player in your area, and no nonsense, you're going to the U, right? So I know a lot of people were elated to get this particular commitment. I know there was some other fan bases that had maybe some interesting things to say. I know I saw an article where somebody reported, well, you kind of expect for him to come to your school. You have his brother on staff, which I don't know. I don't disagree with it because a lot of times that's what ends up happening. You hire coaches from certain high schools that you feel like they may have, some particular prospects, and so you're hoping that, hey, that particular coach can turn some of his guys to your particular program, right? So, I mean, it happens. I'm not necessarily upset about that, but I know some people are upset about it, right? But I watched his film. I watched Coach Hayes break down his film, and I'm a novice, right? I'm a novice, and I'm telling you, and I'm prefacing this by saying I'm a novice for this reason. A lot of us are novice, and we watch that particular film, and we put those type of, very, very high expectations out there. Some people feel that he's the best D-line recruit we've had since the early 2000s. I saw someone on Footballville say since Jerome Brown. So, again, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but it seems that the early 2000 expectation or the early 2000 mark is a lot more suitable. I know some people brought up Marcus Fortson from that very Herald '08 class, but they say Ruben Bain is he's just that. And so when you look at the film, what you take away from it is you see a guy. And this is kind of a similar evaluation that, NFL teams or even collegiate teams, they look at, they say, okay, if you're in a bad district, I need to see you being the best player. And nobody will argue no one will make an argument saying that South Florida is not the best football in the country, right? Not a lot of people argue that. So to see him do what he did in that region of football, and not just in that region, but doing it on the national stage against your IMGs, against your Bishop Gorman. So he took his talents on the road. he didn't just dominate, in the backyard. He went across the street, he went uptown. You know what I mean? He got in the car, went and dominated. So I mean, you're getting a guy that is just not looked good just in a region, right? And so obviously we got his teammate of last year in West Saint who came in and looked at like the best linebacker, even though he has some things he got to work on. Hopefully we can get the other linebacker in Clark. But again, like I said, I'm not necessarily following recruiting. I'm just, it's just jubilant. So I mean, you have to get involved with it, right? But getting back to what's going on here, right? So he's the cherry on top. Well, no, he's the cake. He's the cake. He's the whole sundae. The cherry on top would be a Jaden Wayne, a Collins. That's the cherry. But the whole sundae, the whole shake, was Ruben Bain, right? So we brought in a solid defensive line class last year with Mario getting the pledges of Najee Kelly and Cyrus Moss. Were able to get those particular things in order. So we lost Darrell Jackson, going to Florida State. Got Akeem Mesidor. So the reality of the situation is we should have a very nice defensive line next year. But I see the expectations are going through the roof. And I just want to temper those expectations, right? Because I think, I know this is the mindset that many Miami fans had when we went to the going into the Texas A&M game. We looked at that class that they signed last year from a defensive line perspective, followed that class so much so they said, man, somebody's not going to make it. There's just too many guys there, right? But at the same token, says that we need to stack that type of talent. So again, it's just, you talk out both sides of your neck, but it is what it is. But many felt that one particular class was going to take Texas A&M defensive line to another level. And they're not going to do that as true freshmen, right? You hope to see that impact occur as sophomores, right? So that's what I'm saying with this particular class. And we could potentially add Malik Bryant as a defensive line recruit because some people feel that more or less he could end up being an edge guy. So we could add him into that particular class, even though he's classified as a linebacker. But this particular class right here, if everything holds tight, and we don't have any, defections from the class that we signed last year, then we can't realistically expect to see any type of motion with this particular class until the year after next, right? And so obviously that's what we're kind of building to. That's kind of seems like what's going on right now is that, you're going to push, you're slowly pushing some chips to the middle of the table. And the 24-25, because 23 next year. So the 24-25 season, and most notably the 25-26 season, should be the years that this particular class, as well as the class that we signed last year, this is really when they should go into, come into their own. But again, all that is predicated on these evaluations being what they're supposed to be. Right. So if you have one or two missed evaluations in this particular, in this particular class, or even in the class that we signed last year, then obviously that stunts that particular expectation of this defensive line. But on paper, this class looks very good, as well as the offensive line class. But you don't win the game on paper. So hopefully these guys reach their, potential and reach their expectations. But this is a very, very good, defensive line class, right? And just got to get the guys developed. And guys got to want to come in and work, amongst other things. Everyone seems to, want to come in and work. And so hopefully that hard work turns into victories because that's the hardest part. Is to work hard in a certain manner, and that manner is not turning into victories. And then that's when you start questioning things. But I don't want to end this video on a sour note, so let me end it on a good note. This is a good class, man. This is a good defensive line class, man. I mean, I know we can kind of poke some holes in this class from maybe a wide receiver standpoint, maybe even from a defensive back standpoint, but where the games are won and lost at, front seven, offensive line, this is a good class. This is what championship classes are made of. So hopefully again we are able to, reach that particular pinnacle. As always, man, it's all about the you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment.